Welcome to the Four Quarters Podcast with Curtis Branch and Conley Phipps, Oklahoma's premier high school sports podcast, brought to you by Bravado Wireless.
Welcome back to the Bravado Wireless podcast, Four Quarters with Curt and Conley, and we're joined tonight by Coach Ken Hayes, and I'm going to let Conley introduce him, give you a little background on him. They've got quite a relationship, and then I'll interject a little golf here and there, Coach.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to have my former college coach and one of my mentors, not only as a player, but when I started coaching, I still say some of the same things you said, and do some of the same things you did when I played for you, Coach. And I know there's going to be a bunch of Redmen, and they're going to be watching this, and I just want to say for them, we appreciate all you did for us and support us when we were coaching and when we were playing, and so it's an honor to have you on the show.
Well, it's an honor to be here.
And let me the people out there that we've got Northeastern State Hall of Fame, University of Tulsa Hall of Fame, Bacone Hall of Fame. He's coached NBA players, doctors, lawyers,
and even you,
and some characters, a lot of characters.
Yeah.
So we're glad to have you, Coach. Really glad to have you.
Looking forward to it.
Well, the good thing is we don't have a script. We're just going to talk. We love to talk hoops. That's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, we talked on the way over, but there's so many great stories. But you started before we even got going here about telling us about Bacone. So tell us a little bit about the Bacone days. That was your first college job, right?
It really was. I was coaching at Stillwell High School. My goodness, we were ranked 5th in the state, 10-2 record. I had all the athletes in the world, and it was a great team. Claudel Overton was a coach at Bacone. They go to Cameron. They're down 40 at halftime. He went in the dressing room and he says, "Guys, you can leave or finish the game. I'm out of here." He left. That was the JUCOs back in the old days. Okay?
Yeah. Now, is that Bo's dad? That's
Bo's dad.
Yeah.
That's Bo's dad.
Yeah.
A great guy. And great coach.
Yeah, great, yeah.
But he'd had it. He just had it. Okay, so they called me and I got the job. I come in there on Tuesday. We had a game on a Thursday, and I didn't know all the players' names. We played at Easter down at Wilburton, and I said, "You get in for him," one of this kind of deal.
A lot of yous out there.
Yeah. So I was at Department of One, and after 2 years, they were going to let me hire an assistant. I did all the teaching classes, all the sports, track, baseball, basketball, the whole 9 yards. So by now, he's coaching at Alice Robinson Junior High, B-team baseball coach, incidentally. I said, "Enos, they're going to let me hire somebody out here, so I really wish you'd come out and help me." He said, "Well, I don't know, and so I thought Mary Lee was going to divorce him. 2 weeks, he finally says, "Okay, I'll come out." I said, "Now, we're just going to coach. You take baseball, I'll take baseball, you take basketball. We're just going to coach." He said, "I want to be your assistant for a year, then I'll decide." I said, "Just make up your mind. Just take one." 2 weeks later, he says, "Okay." He got tired of hearing me. He said, "Okay, I'll take baseball," which was my
Cardinals.
Yeah. That was I love coaching baseball.
Yeah.
He took my favorite sports. Well, he's in the Hall of Fame, as we know.
Yeah.
Had that great run at OU, won a national championship at Bacone, and so it kind of worked out well for both of us.
Now, Coach, I got to bring this up while we're talking about Bacone, okay? And I've learned so many lessons from you that have carried with me, and I have told this story to many a person and to many a young coach, okay? The way I remember the story, you're at Bacone.
Yep.
And you guys have an unbelievable year. And you go into the president, and you're going to try to use this unbelievable season you had to make a little more money. Try to improve your lot in life, right? Yeah. So you go in there and we just did this, and this, and the president told you that's why I hired you.
That's a true story.
Yeah, and it's always stuck with me. It's always. well, hey, that's why you got hired, because that's what they expected you to do. And I've told that to so many coaches. I'll never forget that.
The true story is, that's a true story. The forerunners that it was, I went in the office, and I says, Mr. Guest, blah, 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 and I come home from, we finished third in the nation at Hutchinson National Junior College Tournament.
Yeah.
I come back and, and I'm hoping to get a $100 raise, and come to find out they went up on my rent, which means now I'm getting a salary reduction.
Yeah.
I said, Mr. Guest, I thought I did a good job. He said, Coach, he looked at me with those blue eyes, and he looked right through me. He says, you did a good job. That's why we hired you. We thought you'd do a good job. So that kind of takes your ego out of it.
Yeah. But, isn't that a great lesson? That's why you
I never forgot it either.
Yeah.
I say with some of my employees who coming in wanting a raise.
We expected you to do a good job.
I'll be honest, though. I don't know that I expected all of them to do a good job. So some of them you just hope in a prayer.
Well, Coach, let's go back to the start. So the way I remember it, you graduate Northeastern State, your first job, Bradley, Oklahoma, right?
Correct.
Now, even when I played for you at Northeastern in the late 80s, we had the old Bradley 57. 56, okay. Well, I was just going to shoot it. I didn't care what we were running, but okay, Bradley 56, okay. So, and so you had that offense, but what were your coaching influences back when you were a young coach?
Well, I had a great high school coach, and a lot of my coaching personality stemmed from that. He was an aggressive guy. I was an aggressive coach. And Bradley was a great story, though. Bradley, the school closed in 1968. The first Sunday in October, I'll go to Bradley, Oklahoma for a school reunion. I went to Bradley, Oklahoma, again, and inherited all those great little farm boys that were great athletes. We won 30 straight games.
Holy cow.
God had found him a coach and put him on earth. The next
You thought
year,
that was easy, didn't you? You thought it was easy.
those seniors graduated, and those fat sophomores showed up, and we couldn't beat anybody. That's when I realized how insignificant I was and how important talent was. And when I got to where I could recruit, I never forgot that. I recruited hard. But Bradley was a great experience. I was there 3 years.
So where is Bradley, Oklahoma?
Oh, man, halfway between Cox City and Middleburg.
Oh, I know where Middleburg is.
Okay.
We got a cell tower in Middleburg.
You go due south, across the prairie there.
Yeah.
Bradley is 6 miles west of Lindsay, Oklahoma.
Okay. Yeah. Know exactly where
They
that is.
hired me. We had 50 kids in the top 4 grade, 27 girls and 23 boys. But fortunately, there were some athletes in those.
There were some guys that could play.
Yeah.
A funny story, the principal was a guy named Dwayne Snyder. He was a girls' coach my first year. Well, we won 30 straight games, and the board had a meeting, and they wanted me to coach boys. I was such a great coach, coach boys and girls. And Dwayne Snyder, he agreed. He was happy.
Yeah.
I coached girls and boys, making $2,400 a year. Big time, big salary. And I drove a school bus for $600 to and from morning and night, and regular route, and to and from all baseball games.
Yeah.
But I was a miserable failure coaching girls basketball. One of the greatest things that ever happened to me. I was a failure.
Failure at that.
Yeah.
I tell you, you talk about, and that's one of the lessons that I learned from you. Because, when you hired me from Cleveland, I had a pretty good run at Cleveland. I was 24, 25, 26 years old. And then I came back, and I was lucky enough to come back. I wanted to get in college coach, and you called me, and I came back and worked for you for 4 years. But that's one of the things I learned from you. Hey, it's a lot more about the players than it is about the coaching. There's no doubt.
I've always said, I've told coaches this, the big time is where you are. Yeah, I was at the University of Tulsa 10 years, New Mexico State, ORU. But I still have contact with Bradley high school players. The big time is where you are.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's Notre Dame or UCLA or Prue High School.
Right.
Until the end of February, new Bravado Wireless customers are eligible for 50% off of a new iPhone 11 with a new monthly plan. And on top of that, your second and third months of service are on us. It doesn't get much better than that. Visit bravadowireless.com for store locations. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Whether your roads are dirt, paved, or if you're blazing new trails, the roads we travel lead to all of our most cherished places and people. Bravado Wireless strives to keep you connected wherever the roads may take you. We are the leader in wireless mobility and connection in Oklahoma and across the nation. We carry some of the market's top cell phone brands, fast, reliable home internet, and even greater customer service. Locally owned and operated right here in eastern Oklahoma. So whatever roads you travel, Bravado Wireless has them covered. We are Bravado Wireless, and we believe in the power of connection.
Well, it's funny you said that because that's one of the things I want to talk about. And I'm going to tell you something. All your old players, and that's a lesson you taught all of us. And you know, you're Bradley, Oklahoma, tiny, you know, and 20 years later you're coaching against Larry Bird, you know, you know, and the wins all feel the same, don't they? I mean, a win's a win. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are, and that's a great lesson.
The big time where you are, that's the big time. I'll never forget, we won a county tournament. I never heard of a county tournament. I go to Bradley, Oklahoma, and we're playing Rush Springs in the county tournament finals. People were literally, the fans were full. They were sitting on the beams up in the top of there. That's how big time basketball was in Grady County.
Yeah. So he told me you mentioned recruiting. He told me you got some pretty good recruiting stories, and so I think we talked a little bit about Mort Gottfried and then maybe Jay Billis. Was that?
Well, so here's what I remember, Coach, and you and I have talked about this. And when we would go recruit, that's when I would get to hear the stories. You know, and I didn't hear them so much when I was a player, because you know. But now when I work for Coach, I'd hear some of those stories. But you know, I remember, you know, when you were at Oral Roberts, Jay Billis came on a visit. You had the Akers brothers, and Dick Akers was your assistant, and Billis comes on the visit. I think that's an interesting. I mean, that's how big time ORU was. You got a big time player that ended up going to Duke.
Yeah.
You got him to Tulsa, Oklahoma, on a visit.
Well, as an Eric story, now the other side of the story, I'm in his home. His folks were very religious people and obviously followed Oral Roberts, and I'm in his home entertaining everybody with my little tricks. Jay Billis wants to sign. I said, no, you just wait, just visit, and everything will be okay. I bring him in for a visit. The Akers boys have got the recruiting money to entertain him, but I go over there at 6 o'clock in the evening just to make sure they're all out and about. He's in the dorm by himself. The Akers boys takes the recruiting money, and they're off on a party. So Jay Billis and I are over on the tennis courts playing tennis. Can you imagine me playing tennis? Jay Billis was, you know, what a career.
Yeah, what a career.
Every time I see him on television, I'm reminded of some of those stories.
Yeah. And of course, he went on Duke, was a heck of a player, and really was in the recruiting class that kind of got Duke to start being Duke.
Oh, tell me about it.
You know,
his class was when they accumulated all the talent that went on and won national championships and all that stuff. But he tells a funny story about he thought Krzyzewski, they got beat at Virginia by about 30, and he thought Krzyzewski was going to get fired. And of course,
really,
that didn't happen. But anyway,
that had Johnny Dawkins on that.
Oh yeah,
that was really good.
Yeah, it was right there.
That's another great story. Duke wanted Mark Gottfried. And Mark's dad, Joe, was a coach at Southern Illinois when I was at Tulsa and New Mexico State, and we became really good friends. So I really had an in on Mark Gottfried. Incidentally, I might add this, that Mark Gottfried is the only basketball player that ever win the Bear Bryant Award. That's how good a guy he was. Anyway, so they didn't get Mark Gottfried, so they zeroed in on Johnny Dawkins, and as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah. But I remember that I was telling Curt when we were driving up here that, you know, and I don't know, most people realize that, you know, Oral Roberts, not the school, the man, you know, he was ahead of his time when it came to promoting athletics, promoting basketball, and, you know, had the private plane and wanted to go recruit and get into all people's world. But, you know, how often you would fly on that private plane to California to see to see Godfrey. And landed him, and of course he ended up going to Alabama, had a great career both as a player and a coach, but just interesting times. Let's go back to you left Bacone, went to TU as an assistant for Coach Swank.
No, not true.
Okay.
Remember my first love? Baseball. Okay, Jim Killingsworth was assistant at TU, and he was my mentor. He was at Lindsay when I was at Radley.
Okay.
So we became real close. And we talked about someday we're going to California and make money.
Okay. That's right. I forgot. You went out there and coached junior college baseball. I forgot about that.
So the killer goes to Cerritos Junior College in South L.A. I go to the San Jose, Campbell, California, which is San Jose area, as the baseball coach.
I forgot about that.
At the junior college, and absolutely loved it. I had 2 first aid classes on Tuesday and Thursday. The rest of the time I was free. I'm making $4,000 at Bacone. I stand on for $9,500 at junior college, and the next year they raised me to $13,500. Well, I did not want to raise my kids in California. It was a turmoil times, social unrest. Harry Edwards, the activist at Cal Berkeley, it was wild, you know. So Joe Swank had tried to hire me. I said, Coach, I got to go to California and get this out of my system, you know. Jim Killingsworth had his junior college team in a state tournament 20 miles from my house, so I go up to see him play. Here's Joe Swank, TU coach, sitting in the stand. So I sat down by him, you know, and we were telling a story, and I said, Coach, if that job ever opens up again, I'd like to be considered. He said, well, that job is going to be open, and I'd like to have you. So here I am, 1 year in California, taking my family back to
Tulsa.
Yeah.
And then when Coach Swank left, you took over at TU, and Coach, I remember this, and I was little, okay? We would go to those games, and if I didn't go, we'd listen to them on the radio. And you had great teams and great players. You're in the Missouri Valley. And back then, in Missouri Valley, you're talking about Memphis, Louisville, Wichita State,
Cincinnati,
St. Louis. You're talking about the best players, one of the best leagues in the country, and you had great teams. And back then, what was the NCAA tournament? 16 teams, 32 teams.
Yeah.
Or you'd have had several NCAA tournament teams. But tell me about some of the great players you had at Tulsa. I mean, I can think of Willie Biles and Steve Bracey and Dana Lewis and. You know, and tell us a little bit about that time.
Bobby Smith.
Bobby Bingo
Smith, who had his jersey retired just before the pandemic. Before the pandemic.
I remember that.
I could spend all day telling you the recruiting stories. Bobby Smith, okay? Coach Swank had been to Memphis the year before, and he said, I ain't never going back. I mean, there's some racial issues.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bobby is going to Memphis State. He's going to be the first black player. Incidentally, Bobby is whiter than me, even though he's. Yeah. So, a week before school starts at Memphis State, Coach called him and said, "Bobby, we can't swing it. Here's one of the greatest players in America." Incidentally, he was a great baseball and he signed a letter of intent with UCLA in football. $45,000 bonus pitcher with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He wants to play basketball. Okay, so Memphis State can't get him. "Bobby, where'd you like to go?" He said, well, he'd heard of Utah, Oklahoma, and we had a player from Memphis that he remembered. So he said, Tulsa. So 3 schools. Well, OU had put a lot of money and time in that effort. I later found out that one of the perks was they were going to fly the coach to all the home games with one of their private planes. Now, this is true, and I can't tell you. This is I want to know.
Oh, we're not interested in truth, Coach. We're interested in putting on a good show.
Truth can take us.
We're interested.
I had lost my license to a traffic violation in California. I'm getting ready to go to Memphis to recruit.
I've ridden with you. That doesn't surprise me. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
At least you got the ticket. I didn't.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I'm going to go. Coach Swink ain't going to Memphis. So Coach, I'm going. The last phone call, this is how dumb I was. The last phone call I got, white band, don't show up in Memphis. Click. I got a wife and 3 kids. I get on a plane, go to Memphis. No, I can't even rent a car. I call the coach. I said, look, I'll take you and your wife to dinner with Bobby and his wife, and blah, 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 blah. Pick me up. Well, it's supposed to be 6 o'clock. At 7:30, he showed up at Bobby's house. Well, Bobby got these great parents. Big, fat mama just made out of sugar. Well, we connected, We go out to the Ember Steakhouse, which was not integrated.
Oh, my.
So I go in and tell a maitre I said, look, I've got 4 black people here we like to eat. He looked at me like, I might kill you. Now, by now, Bobby and the 2 wives and the coach are coming in. He didn't say, he said, follow me. And there's 200 people in the Ember Steakhouse eating. Follow me. So I'm in the back of the line. I'm going to get knifed. 200 people eating everything. Just dropped their forks and knives and watched this scene. So he took us over behind a petition. Well, naturally, it's a good-looking steak, but the taste, I didn't taste it. We get back to Bobby's house, and I want to get a cab. Guess what? Cabs ain't coming that part of town. 10 o'clock at night. Bobby goes out and looks for a cab. Mary goes out and looks for Bobby, his wife.
Yeah.
By now, I'm outside the door, and she comes running back, all huffing and puffing, says, Coach, you got to get out here. There's 400 people up at the corner, but they're going to burn this place.
Oh, holy cow.
So Bobby comes back by and says, she starts laughing. She says, Bobby, he'll tell you what I tell the coach. He said, good gracious, Mary, that scare anybody to death. Don't be telling those kind of stories. We had been told how sharp she was. She was a brilliant, really a smart gal, and had a great personality. I picked Bobby up the next morning at 6 o'clock in a cab. We go to Tulsa. I get off the plane. They take him. A week later, I don't know where they took him. I don't, till this day, and I don't care. But back in those days, the national letter of intent wasn't that strong. You had to go to class. Once you went to the first class, that's where you was going to school. Well, Bobby was kidnapped for a week somewhere. Come back on a Monday morning, goes to class, and comes back. Bobby, call your wife and call your mom. Later, Bobby told me the story. He said, Coach, he said, my mama said, you're going to Tulsa. He said, Mom, I ain't even been to the place. I ain't seen it. She says, well, you'll see it when you get there. Here's a guy whose jersey had just been retired, Here's a guy in the NBA,
Cavaliers, right?
Oh, yeah. Cleveland Cavaliers. And, he's in every Hall of Fame that you can be in.
Bobby Smith.
Bingo Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great player. Well, I know you had some great teams at Tulsa.
One more bingo story. Let me tell you how good an athlete he was. He went out for spring football, and everything they could throw, he had it. Well, Glenn Dobbs, the football coach, is licking his chops. Well, come fall, then he ain't playing football. So he wouldn't be Glenn Dobbs' favorite. But he played basketball for 2 or 3 hours over there, and they have a track meet across the field over there. He goes over in tennis shoes and sweatpants, sweating, and high jumps 6'7", which I think is still a TU record.
Wow.
That's the kind of athlete is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Until January 31st, new Bravado Wireless customers are eligible for 50% off the iPhone 11 with a new monthly plan. And on top of that, your second and third months of service are on us. It doesn't get much better than that. Visit bravadowireless.com for store locations. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Until the end of February, new Bravado Wireless customers are eligible for 50% off of a Samsung A11 with a new monthly plan. And on top of that, your second and third months of service are on us. It doesn't get much better than that. Visit bravadowireless.com for store locations. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
What were some of the great teams in the Valley at that time that you tangled with? I mean, was Denny Crum at Louisville?
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Denny and I became really good friends. We beat them. They ranked third in the nation, which is the highest ranked team TU's ever beaten, incidentally. Then we got to go back to Freedom Hall and play them. Well, we were going on at 6 o'clock. We get out there to practice, and they're still on the floor. I go out at mid-court, and I said, I'm glad you guys are practicing. We're tired of kicking your butt. Ron was just cracking up, and he was a great guy and also a great coach, obviously.
Yeah.
And was that the team that had the Daryl
Griffith?
Yeah, Daryl Griffith.
Oh, yeah. They had great talent. How about this? I'm at TU for 10 years, 3 years assistant, 7 years as head coach. My 7 years of head coach, we had 4 teams in the Final Four. Now, how'd you like to compete in that league?
Yeah, it's a big time league. You probably, I'm guessing you got there as an assistant about the time Oscar Robertson left Cincinnati. Your paths didn't cross, but it was had to be pretty close.
Oh yeah. He's one of the all-time greats, of course. But anyway, they talk about a triple-double. Oscar Robertson averaged a triple-double.
Yeah, that's crazy.
This is the kind of talent we had in the Missouri Valley Conference. Some promoter back in the day, he had the ACC, Big Ten, Southeast Conference, and the Missouri Valley Conference, all stars. Put on these games. The winners got $2,000. It only lasted 2 years. You know why? The Missouri Valley All-Stars dominated.
Yeah, I believe that. I'm telling you, I remember.
Yeah.
And Coach, I was born in '65, but I remember those great teams. I mean, one of my favorite guys is, and Coach was in the forefront of he's got some Billy Tubbs, and before Billy Tubbs, he liked to put on a show, score points, but he had this little guard. Tim Carson. And Curt, they would go. I remember that. I mean, I may have been 7 years old. We go to the games, and Tim Carson, they had like 2-line layups. And Coach, you may be able to explain this better, but Tim Carson beat the free throw line. And one guy throwing the ball, and then they both cut, and then Tim Carson would do tricks with it and throw him hey, it was entertaining. It was a Globetrotters.
Yeah.
I mean, he spin around, kick it off. I was just mesmerized as a young kid. I mean, and probably nobody else. I don't know where you came up with that, but I've never seen anybody else do it.
Niagara. What's the little guard's name at Niagara?
Calvin Murphy.
Murphy. That's where I saw it. And after Tim, I want to continue it. Well, Mark Tucker comes on.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mark was better than Tim at it, but it embarrassed him.
Yeah.
So he would do it, but he just hand the ball off.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Tim Carson put on a show talking about Mark Tucker, which I got to know him a little bit when I got to Sapulpa. He came around a little bit, but I remember when he graduated high school in '74, so I was 9. My dad takes me to Sapulpa, and you know what he does before he goes in the locker room. Sapulpa. I mean, they're in this small gym, Curt, which is an old gym in the high school, packed. I mean, they've got a great team. He's a great, great player. Last thing he does before he goes in the locker room every game, all right, spins it on his finger in front of all these fans, throws it up in the air, bounces in with his head, gets it, and they run the locker room. I've never seen anything like it. Right? I mean,
Correct.
I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Every game. Incredible player.
Mark was like my son. I used to go to basketball camps where he was, and he would follow me around like a puppy dog, and we got real close. And TU was tough academically. I mean, not everybody can get in at University of Tulsa. I say 50% of the available athletes were not available to us because of the SAT.
Yeah.
Well, Mark was a sharp guy, but he was not a great tester. So he had borderline deals. And I couldn't get him in school. He's signing the next morning with OSU. I go over there the night before and do my thing and state my case. Okay, Coach, I'm coming. And and he did. Of course, it was hard for him. Guy Strong was a coach at OSU, and he had to tell him he was going to TU. And Mark and Daryl Johnson, when I left TU and went to New Mexico State, Daryl Johnson and Mark were going to go with me. The Missouri Valley Conference at that time had, if you transferred from one conference to another, you had to sit out 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So they didn't, which is the right thing to do.
Right.
You know, I would not have wanted to abandon TU.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he ended up going to OSU, right?
He wound up going to OSU. He did. Yeah.
Finished his career there.
And Daryl wound up at SNU. Southern Nazarene had a great final senior year. Yeah.
Both turned into excellent coaches. For
Mark
sure.
was a fourth-round draft choice with Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a great player. I remember he went to Tulsa and Oklahoma State, and I remember watching him at Sapulpa, and he later coached at Sapulpa for a few years.
Yeah.
What I tell you what, I read an interesting story today. I knew a lot of this stuff, but I Googled some stuff and was reading some articles, and Jimmy Trammell several years ago did a great article on you for the Tulsa World. And I was reading through there, and he brought up, your ORU days.
Yeah.
And what a horrible decision that ORU made. Anyway, the interesting thing about it was, because I was there, I was there. Matter of fact, Coach, I probably never told you this. If you'd have been at ORU when I graduated high school, I may have gone to ORU.
Yeah.
And if you'd have been at ORU when I left OU, I'd have gone to ORU. I mean, when I left, I was going to go wherever you were. But anyway.
But you couldn't get away from me, is what he's trying to say.
But anyway, the interesting part that I'd never heard, and if you had told me this, I don't remember, but that several years later, that Oral Roberts himself called you and said, hey.
10 years later.
Yeah, hey, that was a big mistake.
He asked me 3 times to forgive him. And the first time he asked, I blew it off. The second time he asked, I blew it off. The third time he asked, I said, Oral, man, I love you. And I did. I love Oral Roberts. Great man. Anyway, I said, I'll forgive you 10 times over 10 times. He said, Coach, you don't know what that means to me. He said, the Holy Spirit has not honored this ministry from that day to this. I said, hold it. I don't want nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
But Oral Roberts was a great human being. I loved him. He loved basketball. The thing there was Oral was building the city of faith, and he was scattered out. You know, he's seeing 900-foot Jesuses and had to raise $9 million this week before the school would close, and it was a mess. Anyway, he had delegated some authority to a couple of guys who did not have the ORU vision, believe me. In a meeting, they talked to all the coaches, and after the meeting, I said, look, I want to talk to you guys. What do you want? There was about 5 minutes of silence, and they looked at me and says, we want to be in a Final Four, and we don't care how you do it, but you better get us there. I says, if I can do it, I can do it. You know, meaning buy and sell players, violate all the things that ORU stood for, and you know, a little farm boy from Braggs, Oklahoma didn't fit the menu. Funny thing, they fired me, and 2 months later, Oral gets back to town, and he fired both of them.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But you know, you had some great players at ORU. I remember those days, and Cat Johnson and Steve Bontrac, Calvin Garrett.
Oh my goodness, yeah. The Akers brothers.
Akers brothers. Yeah. Mark Akers had played in the NBA for a long time, and
that was right when I started watching basketball and being involved. TU had a great. That's when Nolan Richardson.
Nolan come to town, and brought all those junior college great players with him. And
did you ever have a polka dot shirt wearing contest with him?
Never had a polka dot shirt. Rolling with Nolan, great coach.
So, the greatest Oil Capital Classic that I can remember. Were you there? Were you there for that when they had Houston and North Carolina?
No, they had North Carolina and Tulsa.
Right.
Had Steve Hale.
Yep.
With Dean Smith. This is one of the things. If he recruited a player, he would schedule a game in that locale. Yeah. That's how we got him to Oil Capital Classic. So we're playing. I don't even know who was playing,
Houston.
But anyway, we.
I don't think it was. I don't think it was Houston.
Okay.
It might have been Tulane.
Okay.
Anyway, the thing is, we're going to play North Carolina in the finals. That's the way you set up those Oil Capital Classic. You know, you get the weakest team.
Right. Yeah. You're rigging it to get it.
That's another funny story I'll tell you in a minute. So we're going to play at North Carolina in the finals. Tulsa upset Michael Jordan and North Carolina. Now we win our game, and so we're playing TU in the finals. We're down 1 or 2 points. My guy shoots the ball. The Big Ten guy, 6'10" guy from Tulsa, goes up and gets the ball in the air.
Bruce Fanley.
No call. Bruce Fanley.
Yeah.
He goes up and gets the ball in the air, no whistle. I'm about 6 feet in there. I said, what? No whistle, nothing. Anyway, they did beat it, and that's the night I got fired. Thank goodness.
That's right.
Oral Roberts University was a job that I was enduring, not enjoying, because of what things I'm telling you about. You know, they were not interested in the ministry and what it stood for. You know, they wanted to win at all costs, and you know, I just didn't fit the mold.
You know, I went to, and Curt, you've heard some of his story, because the other night we had Tom Hankins on.
Yeah.
And we were telling some Coach Hayes stories, but I brought up that I met Tom at ORU basketball camp. And back in the day, it's complete. You know, summer basketball is completely different than there is now. There was no AAU and all the great players.
Correct.
Any great player all over the country. I mean, there's a great player named Glover. I remember him at ORU basketball camp from Washington, D.C. And, of course, all the great Oklahoma high school players, they all went to ORU camp, 300, 400 kids.
Yeah.
And Coach Hayes would put on a show, and he was one of your mentors, John Wooden, had his players wear his socks inside out. So I remember that's one of the first things you did at camp. You showed everybody how to wear your socks inside out.
Absolutely.
Reduce blisters.
Yeah. And, you know, why would you put the hard side on your feet? Put the soft side on your feet.
Yeah.
Now tell me the story, because I know you talked a lot about John Wooden when I worked for you. and obviously a great coach. But what the story I remember you telling, you go out there and play. I assume you're at Tulsa, but one of his, and you knew all his stuff. What he believed in.
Yeah.
And one of the things he believed in was, hey, we're not going to worry about the opponent. We're just going to worry about us. And you get to the hotel that night, and you turn on the John Wooden show, and what's he doing? This is a great story.
He said, and we don't scout our opponents.
Yeah.
We're not interested in what they do. We're interested in what we do. That's the thing. That was his philosophy. So I get back to the hotel, turn on, here's the John Wooden show. He's diagramming our offense better than we could run it. Needless to say, they had it down. We played them at Tulsa, and when I was at New Mexico State, we played them, and it was they just had such great talent. But we were competitive. But one of the great stories, back in the hair deal, he had the deal. If your hair was touching collar, you got a haircut.
Right.
Well, he had this big 6'10" center named Patterson. Patterson goes in his office and he said, Coach, he says, I think I'm entitled to wear my hair the way I want to. He said, I think it's my rights. He said, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but he said, I'm the head basketball coach here and I have my rights and I'm entitled to my rights. If you don't cut your hair, you ain't playing. He cut his hair. Wooden set him out the first 10 minutes of our game, turned him loose on us. I mean, he was a wild man. I mean, he just killed us,
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
A funny thing about that, Wooden came to Tulsa to speak to a Fellowship of Christian Athletes deal one time.
It was in the late 80s, early 90s?
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're out in the hallway. They want to get a picture of me, Bill Self, and John Wooden. So the cameraman was having a little trouble with the camera, so I was talking to Coach Wooden. I said, Coach, I think you ought to send me a UCLA jacket. I said, we were as much responsible for your success as anybody. He kind of chuckled, and then I remind him of the Patterson story.
Yeah.
He thought that was funny.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't talked about New Mexico State, so, and you told me this story. So, Lou Henson, legendary coach,
Yeah.
Oklahoma. You he leaves New Mexico State. I guess he goes to Illinois.
Illinois,
then.
yeah.
And you got the job at New Mexico State.
Yeah.
And you had some great teams.
Yeah.
And he had one of his best players in New Mexico State. I've heard you tell many stories about him. His name was Slab Jones.
Albert Slab Jones. Nobody knew his name was Albert.
Yeah, I never heard you call him.
Slab.
Yeah, Slab Jones. But you, and back then, so you tussled with Larry Bird a couple times, didn't you? New Mexico State was he?
Well, let's put it this way. We played them 7 times,
Yeah.
and 3 of those 7 were overtimes.
Wow.
Let's put it this way. In my gut right now, I've got this, like Paul, the apostle, thorn in the side.
Yeah.
I still have that thorn in the side. We're playing number 1 team in the nation, Indiana State. We're up 2 with 27 seconds to go. They foul us 1-1. We miss it. With 10 seconds to go, they shoot and miss. They foul us. We miss a 1-1. With 3 seconds to go, they foul us. Great coaching move, and just get up on them. I was afraid of a fouling and the long pass. I had my guys to drop back. 3 seconds to go. What can you do? My guy misses the free throw. Bob Heaton shoots one from 65 feet off the backboard, goes in, game's tied, another overtime. They beat us.
Wow.
Larry Bird, without reservations, I won't say he's the greatest player of all time. I will tell you he was the greatest college player I ever saw. He would score 40 points if necessary, or 4 points. He had no interest in what he scored. Just win. That's all he cared about.
So he wasn't like Conley. Conley just worried about what he scored, right?
Why would you say that? This is a family show.
Well,
Don't get me
I understand. It's a family show. We gotta get some of that in here now. I mean, Coach Hayes said that you had. I got to go check the NSU record books, but you said he had 2 assists in one season, and I said that was 2 more than I thought he would have had.
Until January 31st, new Bravado Wireless customers are eligible for 50% off the iPhone 11 with a new monthly plan. And on top of that, your second and third months of service are on us. It doesn't get much better than that. Visit bravadowireless.com for store locations. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Whether your roads are dirt, paved, or if you're blazing new trails, the roads we travel lead to all of our most cherished places and people. Bravado Wireless strives to keep you connected wherever the roads may take you. We are the leader in wireless mobility and connection in Oklahoma and across the nation. We carry some of the market's top cell phone brands, fast, reliable home internet, and even greater customer service. Locally owned and operated right here in eastern Oklahoma. So whatever roads you travel, Bravado Wireless has them covered. We are Bravado Wireless, and we believe in the power of connection.
Conley was a great shooter, a great player, not just a shooter, he's a great player, but he was also a great assistant coach. But this is a story that'll tell you about his competitive nature. We'd be down 5 or 6 points with 5 seconds to go. He'd call timeout. I said, Conley, I just don't have any 5-point plays with 5 seconds to go. Coach, meaning he never gave up.
Yeah.
He was competitive to the bitter end.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the NSU days. I played with a lot of great dudes. When I went down there and was your assistant, coached a lot of great dudes, and we get together. I talk to Mike Parrish all the time. We love talking about you and all the good times. But Curt, one of the neatest things Coach Hayes did, okay, he would, after a game, we'd come back the next day at practice, okay, and we didn't do it every game, but certainly after we would win, and he would get us together and he would ask if anybody wanted to do a skit. Okay, so what it was, I mean, this is the greatest stuff. You talk about team building. I mean, you can't find this in a book anywhere. Okay, it's genius. So he would let, like, it, you know, if Parrish was shooting the ball too much, all right, maybe a couple of his teammates wanted to go out and make fun of Parrish. They call him the Billy Goat trying to get it off. But I'm telling you, so I'm assistant coach there, and my first year I was there, I mean, had a really good team. Had a kid named Michael Wilson, great player from the Bahamas, and just had a really, really good team. Well, Tim Stewart, longtime coach, and now he's at Siloam Springs, was a really good player at Northeastern. Super, super dude. Okay, Coach Hayes pulled him out, out of the game. And so he's over on the bench and he's pouted up, right? So we come back, practice the next day.
Now tell it like it is. He walked by me and said, "You're stupid."
I don't remember that. I don't remember that. But so the next day at practice, Coach Hayes, hey, anybody have a skit? I've got one. See if you can recognize this player. So Coach Hayes stomps out of the circle there, goes over and sits on the bench, crosses his legs, and pulls out a binky out of his mouth and sucking on it.
That's great.
And that was Stu pouted up on the bench. I will never. And there's all kinds of. I mean. So knew how to make it fun. I mean, go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say, you think about your coaching tree, as a legacy, as a human being, and as a coach, and influence so many people's lives. It's amazing to me. My high school coach played for you at Bacone. Cleveland is kind of a hotbed for coaches, where we grew up and knew each other from high school. But you ever figure out how many coaches that you coached?
One time, I did this. I think it was Michael Parrish, 36 former players were coaching in Oklahoma
Yeah.
At one time.
At one time.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Those guys have all gotten old and moved on to bigger and better
Well,
things.
one of them's doing a podcast now.
Growing his facial hair. I
And
mean,
he still ought to be coaching.
Yeah.
now, I just found out, matter of fact, guy from Cleveland, really good coach, was at Whitesboro. We play him in the Tournament of Champions, Billy Carr. He left Whitesboro and took another job, but the new coach at Whitesboro, I think this is his first or second year, Shane the Dog Putnam.
Don't tell me that.
Yep. I haven't talked to him. But, he was down in Texas at Waxahachie many years ago, assistant coach, and then moved around, got out of coaching. But he's at Whitesboro, so that's probably one that not many people know. Curt, I got to tell you, there's all kinds of great Northeastern State. I got to tell you 2 stories I was thinking about driving down here. Okay. Coach Hayes, he talked about recruiting. Okay. He knows you've got to have players. Okay. I'm just a young dude. High school basketball thinks he knows what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So it's my first year we were good. Second year we weren't as good, so we had to get some players. Okay. So and at that time, in the NAIA, I mean, you weren't going to win with high school players. We recruited the junior college, and there's a bunch of them around here.
Right.
So down at Carl Albert, they always had great players. So Coach Hayes tells me in the office one day on Friday, he says, don't play anything tomorrow. We're going recruiting. I'm like, okay. He goes, meet me here at 8 o'clock in the morning. Where are we going? We're going to Carl Albert, Poto, Oklahoma. Okay. So, and he goes, grab a letter of intent on your way out of the office. So there's a kid at Carl Albert, played for, I guess he played for Murphy.
Yeah.
And named Jermont Wade. He's from Memphis. Really good player, right? Not going. I don't know what the situation. Didn't have the grades. Wasn't going to graduate junior college, whatever it is. So we could sign him at Northeastern. So we go down to Poto. We're looking all over the campus. We find him in the dorm. All right. Coach Hayes gets him to sign this national letter of intent, and we drive back to Tahlequah. And hey, now he's done. He can't do anything else. Murphy was so mad. But he was a great player for you. Remember Jermont?
Henry Felix.
Henry the Cat,
Yeah. Got them both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Murphy never forgave him for that.
Yeah. It was some great.
I told him, I said, look, what am I going to do? He wants to sign. What am I going to do? He said, no, you can't sign. I already did that with Billets, And I learned a lesson there. So second time around, you're a little smarter.
Yeah.
And
what was your favorite one? Give me 1 or 2 of your favorite recruiting stories.
Oh, forever. There's too many.
Let's just go with 1 or 2.
The Bingo Smith was the most intense one. And Willie Biles, goodness alive, there's just no end to recruiting stories.
It was a different time back then because you could be out all the time.
Yeah.
You could camp out, signing day, and
You can't believe what all went on back in the day. Like I say, we bring Bingo to Tulsa. A week later, I see him. They kidnapped him. I don't know where he was. But they used to do that. They get a player to hide him out.
I remember one of the great Billy Tubbs recruiting stories. He had Larry Johnson, kid from San Jacinto Junior College, and he had him committed, and he was going to drive down and get him. This was after he'd had a Final Four run, and he still had some #1 ranked teams in the country, really, really good. And he pulls down that morning in Dallas to sign him, and Jerry Tarkanian sitting on the porch smoking a cigar. Said, you're a little late, Billy.
Coach, I remember that NIT game at the Mabee Center when you guys played Coach Tubbs. That was a heck of a game. 82 or something.
Man.
A bunch of good players out there.
We're up 20 in games with. The referee played for Billy Tubbs at Lawnmower Junior College.
Yeah.
I'll never forget.
I don't know how you got up 20 then.
You know David Little?
Oh, yeah.
Notorious crook.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can put it. Mark Akers, early in the second half, they put this 4th foul on. I'm trying to get him out of the game. The ball's over here. Mark's over here running down the court. Little does his famous flip-flop job in front of Mark Akers, 5th foul. He's out of the game. We get beat.
I don't remember that. I just remember it's a great game. And I remember there was 10,000 people in there.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
Curt, I'll tell you another good story that I was thinking about today. And so, one of the things that was really, I liked about Coach Hayes is, he wanted me to learn and to get better at coaching. You do the practice schedule. You go recruit. You tell me what you think. Gave me a lot of freedom. Really allowed me to become a better coach. And so there was a player at Bacone. Matter of fact, he went to Tahlequah High School, Jason Christie. And I went and watched him play, and Carl Scott was the coach there, and I loved his game, and I kept bugging Coach Hayes. Coach, what do you think about Jason? Yeah. So finally I bugged him so much, he said, hey, if you want him, offer him. And if you think he's good enough or whatever. So I go out on a limb and we get him, and at one time, I think he held the record most threes in a game, 11 or 13 or something.
Still has it.
Yeah, 13 threes in a game at Northeastern. And so he's a great player for us, thank goodness. But I can't remember what happened. Anyway, Coach Hayes calls me and says, hey, we got to meet with Jason. I don't know if he's got a bad grade or what he did. And so, and this is another thing I learned from Coach. There's not a better guy in a meeting in the world than Ken Hayes. I'm telling you, if you did something wrong and you go in a meeting with Coach Hayes, it's unbelievable. He makes you think you're. Because I was in those meetings.
Yeah.
I had to have some meetings with him. He's just unbelievable talking to players. So he's talking to Jason, okay, and he's going down the deal, and so Coach Hayes is like, Jason, what you're doing this. What are your plans? What are you going to do with your life? And Jason says, Coach, I'm going to be a professional fisherman. And Coach Hayes goes, Jason, you can't make any money being a professional fisherman.
Just lawnmower, mow some lawns. Get some coins in your pocket.
And
he's one of the best bass fishermen in the country.
Yeah, he's made millions of dollars fishing.
He says, Coach, I made $5,000 last week. I said, you what? Fishing?
He had to miss a road game in the NAIA because he had bass fishing tournament on Fort Gibson.
He's still fish. I follow him on Twitter.
He's got a daughter he's rebounding for, so I don't know how old she is, but I see him on Instagram. And
You talk about, you want a recruiting story. Okay, Mark Akers. Mark is in then they only had
McDonald's All-American.
Yeah, McDonald's All-American. So, he's been playing in Washington, D.C. All the players except the big 7-footer went to Georgetown.
Patrick Ewing.
Yeah. All these players get in a bus. There's 4 NCAA investigators there making sure nobody cheated. They will get on a bus. Here's a limousine. John Thompson and Patrick Ewing get in a limousine. They go to the game. Now they're expanding this game a little bit. They had one in Wichita, Kansas. I go to Wichita, and there's some great players there, but a skinny 6'3" black guy that, I never heard of him. Some guy named Michael Jordan. He just tore him up. Okay, another recruiting story. This old black coach in North Carolina, good guy, big ORU fan. He's not coach. North Carolina is not going to sign Michael Jordan. You come down here, his folks are very religious, and they follow Oral Roberts, and you can get him. I get on the plane. On the way to Wilmington, I go by and see this black coach. It's in the summertime, and there's about that much dust on the floor, and the major radio about drowns you out. And breaking news. Michael Jordan has just signed with North Carolina. I get in my car and go back to the airport and go home.
Man,
every recruiting story is different.
Right.
Different deal, yeah.
I mean,
That shows the legitimacy, though, of ORU and you as a coach to have those opportunities to at that level.
Any player he wanted to be in on, they were in on. I mean, because facilities were second to none. Great coaching. You know.
And you played an up tempo, fast paced type of game.
Yeah, we did that because we didn't want to play defense.
Works well if you can outscore them.
You know, the old saying, how many games have been run by some guy running there and wants to stick her finger in your nose, defending.
Well, that was our goal at Booker T, was to we knew if we could get to 80, we were going to win. We liked our chances, and every ball game we would look at it like we would tell our kids, do they want us to play in the 50s or do we want us to play in the 70s, 80s? And that was a big thing. But you were a big up-tempo guy, right?
Well, I was a Abe Lemon's disciple. But that's misunderstood. We played good defense. We worked at it. We tried. Sometimes we're physically not able to do anything. But anyway, the point is, points have nothing to do with the defense. Till my dying day, I'll point that out. If you hold a team to 40, 50 points, that has nothing to do with whether you play good defense or not. How many shots did you take?
Right.
What is your OER and DER? That determines whether you're playing defense or not. And there's all kinds of stats that we keep. For instance, OER, offensive efficiency rating. If you have 1.1 OER, you can win a game.
Right.
Your object was DER, defensive efficiency rating, less than 0.9. If you held the team to less than 0.9.
And what you're talking about on the OER, DER is points per possession.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's basic.
That determines whether you're playing defense or not. And we played an up-tempo offense. Obviously, the opposing team is going to have more opportunities to score, and they're going to score higher.
Right. Yeah.
But it's not a reflection that we didn't play defense, and I'll defend that to my dying day.
It's interesting. OER, DER. Coach Hayes was doing that many, many, many years ago. And it's just analytics. I mean, it's not like analytics is new, right? I mean, that's a form of analytics. Coach, let me ask you this. So you've seen basketball for a few years. How has it changed? Just a couple of thoughts on just how it's changed in the last 40 years or the last 10 years?
Oh, it's so much better, Conley. Players are better, coaches are better. It's just amazing how the game has progressed. And, social media, it's just amazing that now you have all the information.
Yeah.
Speaking of information, we used to spend $1,000 or $2,000 just to go scout a team. Well, later in years, they called Burtka Views. Bill Burtka out of L.A. He scouted, and for $50, you could get a scouting report. Yeah. And then it's evolved from there. And like I say, the game has players are just better. Coaches have more access to techniques and nutrition and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I'll tell you a great thing that has helped him in his blood pressure this year is at OU, where Trey's at, they video the kids. They video every practice, and as soon as they're done with practice, you can go upload it. Could you imagine Big Conley at your practice? He wouldn't have to come down in his shoes to watch, see how you're running him through practice. He could have just stayed at home.
Oh, it's changed, and it's better, just plain and simple.
Yeah, I think just evolution of most things, it gets better. But I know, I started my college career, and in the middle of my college career, they put in the 3-point line in college. So the 2 years I played at Northeastern, I had the 3-point line. When I was at OU, I didn't, except for a semester. But it's so much different. I mean, Coach, we never even talked about if you're behind it, you're behind it. If you weren't, you weren't.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't any strategy to it. Yeah. And now, the whole game's based on spacing out behind the 3-point line and getting guys that can make it. And
Yeah, it's you know, the NBA was dominated 70s, 80s, 90s by big posts.
Yeah.
You don't see a big post in the. They said Steven Adams, he's one of the biggest posts in the league, and he's getting paid $27 million a year, and he's averaging 8.5 points, 7.9 rebounds, and he's getting $27 million a year.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
How's the golf game?
Terrible, but
Terrible?
man, I have fun.
Well, we need to.
Coach, I'm
get
embarrassed that we hadn't played in a long time. Let me tell you great Coach Hayes golf stories. We used to go play a little bit when I worked for him. And,
Cherry Creek.
And well, we'd play all over. But one time we're playing and Coach is really good. And I was just starting out. You know, I didn't swing a club till I was 21, and I'm not very good now. You can imagine back then when I was a young coach at Northeastern, we go play and I'd lose a ball, and you know, we get to the end of the finish the hole. I finally putted in there, and I'm counting up my score, and I was like, okay, I knocked one out of bounds, so 3 back in. And Coach stopped me one time. He said, "Don't count that." I said, "Losing the ball is penalty enough."
He's trying to help you out.
Oh,
Make you a fan of the game.
I'll tell you what.
If you can find it, hit it.
Yeah.
No matter where it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've subscribed to that rule a time or two.
don't count that as a stroke. It's penalty enough that you lost it.
How much do you get out and get to watch sports? You've been to a couple of our games at Muskogee.
You know, I'm telling you, the pandemic has really altered my. I've seen 2 or 3 games this year, totally. And before the pandemic, I would see 2 to 3 games every week. High school, junior college, Northeastern. Try to go to Tulsa once a year at least.
Yeah.
And ORU maybe once. The Tulsa thing is parking.
Right.
You know,
That's tough. Great arena. It's hard to park.
They're just absolutely. I don't know how they could address that, but parking doesn't kill their athletics, but it really hurts their athletics.
Well, they got to go up. I was down at Jerry Jones's complex. They call it the Star down there in Dallas. A phenomenal facility.
Yeah.
And this is a great Jerry Jones story. And he's like the farmer that he goes, I don't want all the land in the world, I just want the land next to me. Mm-hmm. And so they had some acreage to the north and the west of their facility, and he was trying to buy it from Ross Perot Jr. And Ross Perot Jr. said, no, I'm going to build apartments, built a 5-story apartment complex on the north side of the practice fields so that they could. And they were marketing that they could look over into the practice fields and watch the Cowboys practice. It was on their flyers. It was on their website. Jerry gets mad and says, well, if you're not going to sell me the land, you're not going to see the practice field. He built a 15-story building on what was their parking lot, straight up in front of the apartment complex, and the first 8 stories are parking garage. And he put Dr. Pepper in there as their world headquarters. But he's like, if you weren't going to sell me my land, you're not going to watch my practice field.
That's good stuff. Did you go to the Legends game last night at Tulsa?
I did not.
I
did not. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know. Since you're a Hall of Famer, I didn't know if you made it back down back there or not.
The reason I don't go is parking.
Yeah,
I
it's
would
hard.
go to more games, but now Tulsa, I used to get there early and park on the curb. Well, now they've stopped. You can't park on the curb anymore.
Yeah.
Now, I was a member of the Golden Hurricane Club forever and ever and ever. Guess where my parking place was? About a half mile over here and behind one of those buildings.
When they had
Yeah.
Well, talking about seeing games, Coach, and I talked to a lot of your old players and my teammates, and that's one thing that we always appreciate is we knew when we were playing in the area you were going to be there. You came to when I was at Sapulpa when we played in Muskogee, you were there. Booker T, you were there. Tom said the other night, when UCO played at Northeastern, you come, and John Coons and Parrish, and we appreciate that.
You know what he's saying, don't you? I would go to their games, and the first thing they would do was come up to me and say, Coach, please take that curse off of me. know what the curse was?
No.
When they were playing for me, I said, look, I hope someday you're a coach and all your players are just like you. That was a curse.
Coach, you remember, I don't know, it may have been probably the third year I was at Northeastern. You'll remember this game. We drove to Durant in a snowstorm, and Roy Pender hits a half-court shot at the buzzer off the glass to win that. You remember that?
Oh, how could I ever forget?
I mean, I thought you almost breakdanced that night. That was the closest I've ever seen you breakdance.
I ran out on the court. You know, how many times you gonna win at Durant, Oklahoma?
Not very many.
Okay, so Roy hits the buzzer beater and we win the ball game, and I'm out on the court, and I wrote a letter to the coach apologizing for. And he called me on the phone and said, man, don't ever apologize for a win like that.
Yeah, that's great.
Crazy.
His son's a good player. The youngest son, I guess, Tyler, is a senior at Broken Arrow. He's Tulsa World Player of the Week this week.
Roy's son.
Yeah.
Roy, did you know that?
No.
Yeah, good player at Broken Arrow. Yeah.
Well, for crying out. Is he still doing education stuff?
Yeah, he does some online stuff and does some AAU stuff. And, his son's a good player. Curt, I'll tell you a good story since this involves my dad. I'll tell you this. So, my first child, Mackenzie, was getting ready to be born, okay? And Northeastern, we got a huge game at Weatherford, okay? Southwestern. And coach is like, you've got to be there, birth your first child. And I'm like, thanks, coach, because he's a family guy, understands. Yeah. But the funny thing about it was, so they go out to Weatherford to play. Well, my dad's at the hospital. Okay, things are moving slow, so my dad's getting antsy. So my dad leaves. My dad leaves the hospital and drives to Weatherford to watch the game. All right, and he makes it back by the time Mackenzie's born. But I remember that night because it was a huge game, and went out there and beat them. And then we got in the playoffs. You remember this by a coin flip.
Flipped a coin, yeah. Flipped a coin.
Tie. It was a tie in the standings all the time. Yeah. I got to.
That's the big time.
Yeah. That's awesome.
We got Coach Hayes.
We lost the television rights.
I got a couple of great Ken Hayes quotes talking about Alva. He didn't like going out to Northwestern Alva, and somebody asked him, "Where's Alva?" He say, "You go till you smell it. You keep going till you step in it."
It's 10 miles from the moon.
Yeah.
We got beat there one night, played awful. He comes in the locker room and, talks to us a little bit. And he said, well, he kind of, does this deal. He said, well, here's the good news. We get to go home, and they have to stay here.
You really don't like Alva. You're not in the Chamber of Commerce out there now.
I don't like Alva.
We didn't win very much out there. You know how that is.
Well, it's a long bus ride.
Do you realize that I was in Northeast 14 times, and 5 times we were knocked out of the conference championship at Alva, Oklahoma.
Oh, wow.
You couldn't win that. It had Bob Batista.
Oh,
He had all
He
had all the referees in his hip pocket. It was just unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
Now, I'll tell you what, I looked up some articles today. Matter of fact, Curt sent me one, and it was at an Oklahoma basketball reunion several years ago, and you were talking with an official. Coach, I can't believe that. I know you're a great guy. I wouldn't have said anything to that guy. And I'm not going to mention his name, but he's an OIC official, and you were talking to him. It looked like you guys were having a good conversation. I would never say anything to that guy or a couple of those other OIC officials we used to have.
Yeah. I
talked about all the, success stories you coached. Sean McDaniel was on that team. Superintendent of Oklahoma City Public Schools. You think he's not stressed out a little bit with the COVID and the public schools? And but
you think Ben Perry wasn't a player? He was a player. He come down there from ORU.
Left-handed.
Lester Gill and Ben Perry,
Yeah.
Kent Sparks,
Yeah.
Hardaway.
Yeah. Grosvenor.
Yeah, Andy.
Yeah. Then of course you have my man, little used, but my man Danny Limes on the squad. Love Danny. Danny's my guy.
What
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah.
Great coach. Still coaching. I mean, the guy's probably won 300-400 games.
Yeah, Barry Hill. I was glad he got back in.
Yeah.
I'm glad you told me about Putnam.
Yeah. He's at Whitesboro.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should be able to get a hold of him.
I'll never forget, I put him in the game. In 20 seconds, he had 2 turnovers. Well, I get him out of the game. He walked by me and he said, "Didn't get in the game, you expect me to handle a rock." Boy, I jumped up and I went down there. I just stopped short of hitting him. Expect me to handle a rock. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It's kind of part of the game.
Yeah. Doesn't matter when you get in. But that's the great thing about it,
Yeah.
That's the thing about it. I think every high school kid, college kid, they think their coach is wrong until they start coaching, right?
Yeah.
And then they figure it out.
Yeah.
But
Most selfish people in the world are coaches. It's their job. They want to win. So they're not going to play favorites.
Right.
Because they want to win.
no doubt, and I've had to have that conversation with the few parents in my day. We're gonna play.
I got another story. I go to an ORU state high school baseball playoffs. Cleveland's playing, so I got to go see my buddy Conley. He's got a brace. He's wearing a brace, playing first base.
Mm-hmm.
The third base coach has got a cigar.
Yeah.
Oh man.
He was my first base coach. And he would tell me to get off, take a step, and then he's like, "Look at me when I'm talking, I look," and the first baseman's holding the ball. He go back. Oh, he was a lot of fun as a baseball coach.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, a lot of great times.
I was at Oral Robertson. Park.
Johnson.
Yeah.
We got beat 3-2. Jay Eddings, great pitcher from Sperry. 3-2.
And the McGrew kid that set the national RBI record.
And home run record.
And a home run record from Cleveland.
Yeah.
And really good players.
Yeah,
Well, Coach, I don't know. We want to keep you too much longer, but we appreciate you coming out and sharing some stories
You think
with
I
us.
don't like to tell the stories and relive the memories?
Hey, that's what it's all about, and that's what our podcast is about. We appreciate you joining us, and we're going to have to show you how to get where you can listen to it. He pulled out a phone that has not been legal in America.
I still have my Nokia, but they phased it out.
Yeah, I don't know how you charge that thing. Yeah, you're not going to get the podcast on that. There's no way.
I'm married to a gal that's tech smart,
Okay.
so she can get it.
I know she's been texting me back. She's good.
She's pretty tech smart.
Yeah. Well, Coach, I enjoyed it. It was great. Loved hearing your stories again, and some new ones I didn't know.
Yeah.
So
This podcast is brought to you by Bravado Wireless. We believe in the power of connection.